looking at sprinting for general population, how do you approach this conversation where someone may come in and is altogether you deem unfit for the task at hand, where like there is this nihilistic yet sort of like free loving, well, don't gatekeep exercises, stop fear mongering, sprint your, elderly overweight client. And it's like, well, hold on, man. Like, how do you kind of square those two things of, we want to open up doors of physical ability for people, but we do want to be mindful. Like sprinting, if I were to get, and I don't have the numbers on this, but I would anticipate based off just what I've seen, like I've seen some of the best athletes on the planet hurt themselves sprinting. Right. So it's like, oh, there's a there, right? There's something here that we need to be concerned about at this red line level of force output, force absorption, force transfer. How do you square that with your clients that are like, oh, that's cool. V's sprinting. I want to sprint. You're like, okay, yes, but.
Yeah, yeah. And I'll start that by saying it's funny because my clients think that what I do is very cool, but only my athletes really do this style of training. And again, there's a baseline that I make sure that they hit before that. Most of my Gen Pop clients are like, "That's cool. All right, what are we doing today for me?" And like, so
Right.
they're very good about it. But I was at the Canadian Nationals here because it was hosted here in Ottawa this year, and so I went this summer to go watch. And even like Andre DeGrasse didn't compete because he had a hamstring issue and he didn't want to irritate it too much before going to Tokyo. So the best in the world have issues and have injuries or experience dysfunction because of the quality of skill and effort required for every rep, like we talked about earlier. And funny that you mentioned my clients because I had a client come to me. He's still working with me now. He's been working with me for almost a year. He's 50, and he said that in every decade of his life, he's dunked a basketball. And so when he was like 40, 42, he still dunked. And so he came to me. He's like, I would like to dunk sooner rather than later because my body's falling apart. I said, okay. I said, let's set I was like, give me your background. And so as I'm asking more questions, so he came in with his goal to feel better and to dunk. As I'm getting more info from him, this guy has shredded he has no meniscus anywhere in either knee, like totally shredded down. He had a grade 3 hamstring tear that he did not heal properly in his 40s, and a whack of whole other stuff. And he's still playing ball like 2, 3 nights a week. He plays softball in the summer. He golfs. Like, he just likes to be active. He's doing it. And so I looked at him. I'm like, okay. I was very honest with him. I said, these are the things that I would normally program to increase someone's ability to jump. But I'm looking at all the volume that you're putting on your body during the week, and given your injury history and your age and how sore you come in to see me every time. So we had this conversation a couple weeks in. I just said, I'm not going to be able to do as many things in here to help with that. But what I can do is keep you playing for a longer period of time for now. I said, and then I was like, once we hit this baseline that I feel comfortable getting you to execute some more plyos and maybe some heavy lifting, then we can talk about moving stuff fast. But I said, right now you're not even good at moving weight slow. So it's going to take you. I said, I know you wanted to do this before the end of this calendar year, but if you want to do this and still be able to play ball after, it's going to take us a little bit longer to get there. And that's bearing like any issues along the way if you get injured or anything like that, because you're still pretty active. And so I think it's just about being honest with your clients. And that's something that trainers should learn very early on in their career. It doesn't matter how, like, what style that you train. You really shouldn't have a style. You should just be good at training anybody when they come in with a goal. You should be able to assess the client, determine what they need, and build that program based off of them and their injury history. And so that's what I've done with this particular client is I'm getting him to move well before we start moving fast. And so we're a year in. His stability has like skyrocketed. This guy couldn't even do a split squat when he came to see me. He was falling over. And keep in mind, he's a ball player. So he's like 6'6". So he has no stability. He cheats in every way that a person with long limbs can cheat in the gym. And like, so, we work on these things first, but you just have to be transparent with your clients. And my clients don't need to do all the things that I do. I just know where my skill gap was, and I know that I am limiting the populations that I can help if I have a skill gap. And so that's why I started sprinting.
I'm curious. You brought up something interesting that I kind of want to pull on a little bit, and that's training volume. Like, I think one of the things that I see as people take up sprinting as either their primary training objective or an adjunct in their training is not truly understanding the forces involved and then not adapting the rest of their program from a volume perspective. How was that learning curve with you, or did you pretty were you pretty well versed in like, okay, here are the stressors that I'm going to be undertaking with this new skill, therefore, the rest of my training has to take not necessarily a back seat, but it has to evolve to match. Did you did you overshoot initially at all? How is managing weightlifting in the gym with sprinting on the track? What was your biggest How did you do it? What were your biggest surprises when you started to take that on?
Yeah, so full on, I had to adapt. I don't think I had a proper strength training progression in the gym for myself mapped out in the first like month I was sprinting because I was constantly adapting what I was doing day to day because I was feeling it. And that's why I think it's so important for coaches to have that empathy when they actually can do something themselves so they can feel it and it's easier to program that way. I was constantly adapting what I was doing because it was funny when you first start out. I had this conversation with my track coach a couple weeks ago where when you first start out, your shins feel like crap. Your calves are sore, your feet are sore, because just the repetition of these rudimentary drills is enough to make you feel like you're on the verge of shin splints. And then pounding into the ground, inefficiently, I may add, even more so contributes to this. So my hips were shot in ways that I'd never experienced before. My ankles were shot, my shins were shot. And so I'm adapting my workouts in the gym to complement this so that I'm not again just sewering myself because I'd go into the gym and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna squat today, and then I have no dorsiflexion going on because I'm so locked up. And so you learn to adapt. You don't. It's how we approach everything where. You don't change the intensity, you just change the pattern and find a new way to execute the pattern in a way that's not going to negatively contribute to that volume. But now I'm at a point with my sprinting where I feel like I'm proficient enough that I'm accumulating the kind of fatigue that actual sprinters fatigue, which is more nervous system fatigue. Because my sprint workouts have a total of, we do a bit of a warm up, we have maybe 4 to 6 reps, and then we do a little bit of conditioning. And those 4 to 6 reps are enough to just gas me for the rest of the day. I feel like I could take a nap like within an hour or two after finishing. And again, I have the stiffness in my tendons. I have my muscles have adapted in a way that they're used to this now. And so again, if we throw in like something new or weird in the workout, yeah, you feel it. Same with anything. But it's not my tendons, ligaments, and structures that are taking on this load as much anymore. It's my nervous system. And that's because I feel like it's getting more proficient back to what we talked about at the beginning with training the brain. So that was an interesting concept of initially when I first started, it felt like all of my tissues were taking on the demand. Now it feels like I'm getting more skilled, so my nervous system's taking on the demand.
Do you see sprinting as something that like I almost see sprinting like low bar squatting, where I'm like, yeah, if you want to get really strong and you want to put up big weight, you're probably going to have to like put the bar a little bit down your back and sort of succumb to some of the biomechanical um, asymmetries, asynchronies. But I kind of look at sprinting the same way, where it's like, okay, for most people, most of the time, shaving down the numbers may not be the benefit for GPP. But again, there is a browbeating part of the coaching world that's taken to sprinting that thinks it's for everyone. Like, how do you, and you kind of alluded to this earlier, but how do you look at sprinting in just in just the realm of, call it, general population training? Like, do you see it as a skill that trainers should be focusing on? Or do you see it as something like, yeah, we're going to prepare you so that if you had to, you'll be fine? How does it land kind of in your day to day? I know your clients are like, yo, that's cool, I'm good. But do you get prescriptive with the benefits of sprinting for people in like a general training setting?
So in the weight room, I think there is, first of all, I don't think that anyone has to do any style of training. Like if somebody came to me and they wanted to get their legs strong, I don't ever have to make them put a bar on their back to squat. I can get their legs strong in so many different ways. And that's a thing that I really love about this job. That's why it feels like writing a program is can be so creative because you don't have to use the basics work, absolutely. But if somebody comes to me and they're adverse to a particular movement or they have this injury history, I'm playing with the psychology of it too. So I can be really creative in a program and they don't have people don't ever have to sprint. Where I find the utility with building qualities that could allow someone to sprint, that doesn't mean I'm going to make my gem pop clients sprint on a track ever in their life. But in the weight room, building those qualities, everyone walks. Sprinting is just the most exaggerated version of walking. And people should be able to walk for as long as possible. Like, I hope to God that I am still mobile until the day that I die. Like, I do not want to be sedentary. I don't want to be in a chair and not be able to walk. So, if I can train qualities of walking at its most extreme, that's going to cross over. Again, that doesn't mean I have to make clients sprint, but maybe I can make them hold a sprinter pose ISO when we're warming up for their lower body day. Maybe I can have them do uh, some hamstring ISOs, like long lever hamstring ISOs on the ground, similar things that I would do to warm myself up, you know? So there can be crossover in the weight room, absolutely. Does that mean that we have to make people sprint? No, but I think training this exaggerated version of walking is still very beneficial for Gen Pop people because my goal for most of my Gen Pop clients is to keep them pain free and have their bodies last as long as humanly possible.